Welcome back to the channel. These stories are meant for late nights, quiet rooms, and headphones on. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling me where you're listening from tonight. Now, let's begin the first story. The first time I realized someone might have been watching me, I was 8 years old. I didn't understand what danger really was back then. I only knew that a strange man and a strange car had called out to me and my little sister on a quiet suburban street, and that something in my chest had told me to pull her away. I didn't know that moment would be the beginning of a chain of events stretching over years. Events that would eventually leave me running for my life on the same roads I once thought were safe. I grew up in a planned neighborhood tucked against rolling farmland in northern Oregon. Picture clean sidewalks, identical mailboxes, trimmed hedges, and long curving roads that looped back to the main entrance. Beyond the last row of houses, the land dropped into open fields, tree lines, and narrow country lanes. Beautiful, peaceful, isolated. My parents loved it because it was quiet. I loved it because I could ride my bike for hours without worrying about traffic. My younger sister, Leela, followed me everywhere like a shadow. When I was 8 and she was 6, we walked our dog, Max, down to the entrance of our street. It was late afternoon. The sky was gold. Cicadas buzzed in the trees. Nothing felt threatening. We were halfway down the hill when a white SUV rolled slowly to a stop near the stop sign at the entrance. A man leaned out the driver's window. "Hey," he called, "can you come here for a second?" His voice carried across the quiet road. Friendly, casual. Leela started to walk toward him immediately, tugging Max's leash. I don't know why I reacted the way I did. Maybe it was a story I'd overheard on the news. Maybe it was the way his eyes didn't match his smile. Or maybe kids just have instincts adults forget. I grabbed Leela's wrist. "No," I said, "we're going home." She protested. "He just wants to ask something." But I pulled her anyway, turned us around, started walking back up the hill. I looked over my shoulder. The man was still leaning out the window, watching us. When he realized we weren't coming back, he pulled his arm inside, reversed quickly, and drove off in the opposite direction. I remember the way the SUV disappeared too fast for a simple wrong turn. At home, I told my mom. She listened while chopping vegetables, nodding absently. "Probably just lost, asking for directions," she said. But she locked the doors that night, something she hadn't done before. After that, the memory faded into childhood background noise, just another strange thing that happened once. Until years later, when strange things kept happening again. When I was 9, rumors spread through the neighborhood after Halloween. Parents huddled on sidewalks, kids were pulled indoors early. Someone said a black car had followed trick-or-treaters down the next street over. Someone else said the driver tried to hit a group of kids with the car before speeding off. No license plates, no description of the driver, just a black sedan and panic. I didn't see it, but I remember my father pacing the living room that night, checking windows. I remember the extra deadbolts on the doors. And I remember my mother saying, "This area isn't as safe as we thought." The years rolled forward. By the time I was 14, I had more independence. I rode my bike everywhere. I walked dogs for neighbors. I stayed out later in the evenings. The world felt bigger. That summer, our neighbors across the main road left for a 2-week vacation. They asked me to watch their Labrador. 3 visits a day, morning, afternoon, night. Their house sat just outside our neighborhood boundary, where the sidewalks ended and the road narrowed. To get there, I could walk along the main road or cut through a strip of woods behind our backyard. I usually took the road. It felt safer, more open, more visible. One night, I lost track of time playing video games. By the time I remembered the dog, it was past 10. My parents were asleep. I grabbed a flashlight and went alone. The world outside had changed. No cars, no voices, just wind brushing the grass and the occasional bark of a distant dog. I let the Labrador out. He did his business. Everything was normal. Then, as I turned to leave, I glanced through their living room window. A black sedan sat at the edge of their driveway. My first thought was that I hadn't noticed it earlier. My second was that I definitely would have noticed it. The driveway was short, the yard open, no place for a car to hide. The house was empty. The neighbors were hundreds of miles away. There was no reason for a car to be there. I stood frozen for a moment, flashlight in hand, heart knocking against my ribs. I didn't investigate. I didn't call out. I didn't walk toward it. I slipped out the back door, climbed the fence, and went through the woods instead. Branches scratched my arms. The beam of my flashlight bounced wildly. Every snap of a twig behind me made my breath hitch. I made it home safely. The next morning, I walked the normal route again. The sedan was gone. No tire tracks, no sign it had ever been there. I never told the neighbors. I never told my parents. I convinced myself it was nothing. By 16, I had discovered running. It started as a way to stay in shape for school sports. Then it became something else, a way to clear my head, to escape the feeling of being boxed in by the same looped roads and identical houses. I ran the main road, the side streets, and the connecting country lanes that led into farmland. I knew every turn, every incline, every streetlight. At first, the runs were peaceful. Early mornings, quiet evenings, fresh air, and empty roads. Then the white SUV appeared again. The first time I noticed it moving slowly on the opposite side of the main road as I jogged home. It matched my pace, creeping forward while I ran, not passing me, not turning off, just keeping level. I told myself it was a coincidence. The second day, it happened again. This time, when I slowed down, it slowed too. When I sped up, it picked up speed. A cold line traced down my spine. I turned down a side street and waited behind a hedge for a minute. When I peeked out, the SUV rolled past the entrance, then disappeared. The third day, it was parked near the start of my route. As soon as I ran past, it pulled out and followed at a slow crawl. Day after day, the same pattern. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't want to lose my one escape. Instead, I adapted. I changed my route slightly, turned down different side streets, kept my phone ready, stayed aware. Until the 11th day. I turned down a quiet side road I'd used many times before. A short street ending in a cul-de-sac lined with identical houses and trimmed lawns. Halfway down, I noticed a black sedan parked near the end. Not strange eye itself, but as I got closer, something shifted beside it. A silhouette, low to the ground, crouched, hiding on the far side of the car, watching. Every muscle in my body locked. My instincts screamed louder than thought. I turned around. At the entrance of the street, the white SUV sat idling, blocking the way out. My route home, cut off. Panic surged through me. 2 cars, 1 hidden figure, 1 barrier. I chose the danger I could see. I sprinted toward the SUV. The driver's door burst open and a man jumped out and started running at me. I didn't look at his face, didn't wait to see his hands. I just ran. Months of training kicked in. My legs carried me faster than I'd ever moved before. The man gained for a moment, then fell behind. He shouted something I couldn't make out. I didn't stop until I reached the main road, then the next turn, then my street, then my driveway. Only when I slammed my front door behind me did I let myself breathe. I told my parents everything that night. They believed me. The police came. They took a report. They drove the area. They found nothing. No SUV, no sedan, no witnesses, no evidence. Life returned to normal on the surface, but deep down, a question remained. Were these events separate, random, or had someone been paying attention for a very long time? Because years earlier, when I was just a kid, a man in a white SUV had asked me to come closer, and I never did. After the night I ran from the white SUV, my parents changed everything. My mom drove me to school instead of letting me walk. My dad picked me up from track practice. They insisted I carry my phone everywhere. The front door stayed locked, the garage stayed closed, curtains were drawn earlier in the evenings. For a while, it felt like living inside a glass box. safe but sealed. The police called once to say they'd canvassed the area. No one had security camera footage of a white SUV, no reports of suspicious vehicles, no block sedan parked on side streets. Without a plate number or clear description of the driver, there was nothing more they could do. Eventually, the world moved on. Homework, practices, college applications. Life swallowed the fear, pushed it into a quiet corner of my mind. By the time I graduated high school, I almost convinced myself it had been an isolated incident. A close call, yes, but over. I left for college 2 hours away, a bigger town, busy streets, dorm buildings, crowds, noise. For the first time, I could run without thinking about cars crawling behind me. I ran trails with other students, joined a club, laughed about past paranoia. Years passed. I visited home during breaks. The neighborhood looked smaller each time. Same looped streets, same trimmed lawns, same stretch of open fields beyond the last house. Max, our old dog, passed away. New neighbors moved in, old ones moved out. The world kept changing. Except one thing. Every so often when I visited, I noticed my mother double-checking the front window before bed. I noticed my father glance at slow-moving cars on the main road. They never said anything, but I knew they hadn't forgotten either. Then, during my final year of college, I got a call from my little sister, Leela. "She thinks someone followed me today," she said. My stomach tightened. She was 16 now, the same age I'd been when everything escalated. She told me she'd started running in the evenings. She told me about a white SUV that drove slowly beside her for half a mile. She told me it turned off when she ran into a side street. I told her to stop running alone, immediately, no debate. She agreed. She sounded scared enough that I didn't have to convince her. When I came home for winter break, we sat together at the kitchen table. She described the SUV, large, white, tinted windows, same as mine. I wanted to tell her it was coincidence, that years had passed, that it couldn't possibly be the same person, that this was just a paranoid chain reaction. But I didn't, because I knew better than anyone that sometimes instincts are right. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at my childhood bedroom ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of the house. The familiar walls felt less like safety and more like memory holding its breath. The next morning, I decided to drive the old running route, just once, in daylight, just to prove to myself the past was over. I left the house and followed the main road, past the side street where I'd seen the black sedan, past the cul-de-sac, past the entrance where the white SUV had first rolled up when I was 8. Nothing unusual. I told myself it was done, finished, old fear. Then, in my rear-view mirror, I saw it. A white SUV pulling out from a driveway 2 houses down. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. It followed at a normal distance, nothing aggressive, nothing illegal, just there. I turned right onto a connecting country lane. It turned too. I drove slower. It slowed. I sped up. It matched speed. The road ahead stretched empty between open fields and bare winter trees. No houses, no pedestrians, no witnesses. My heart began to pound the same way it had when I was 16. I turned onto another side road. It followed. There was no more doubt, no more coincidence to cling to. Someone in a white SUV was deliberately mirroring my movements on the same roads where it had started years ago. I didn't panic, not outwardly. I took out my phone, started a video recording pointed at the rearview mirror. I drove toward town, toward traffic, toward gas stations and cameras and people. As soon as I reached the first busy intersection, the SUV switched lanes, accelerated, and disappeared down a different road. I stopped at a gas station and watched the video. Grainy, shaky, but clear enough. White SUV, distinct grille, partial plate visible for one frame before glare washed it out. I sent it to myself, backed it up, saved it. When I showed my parents that night, they didn't speak for a long time. Then my father said something I'll never forget. "This didn't start when you were 16. He pointed to the entrance of the neighborhood outside our window. "It started when you were 8. Someone tested you, and now they've noticed your sister. The police took the new report more seriously. They had video this time. They ran the partial plate. It led to a rental vehicle registered out of state. No name they could release, no direct suspect. Extra patrols were added for a few weeks. Officers drove by more often. The neighborhood relaxed again. No more white SUV, no more black sedan, no more slow crawling cars. Life moved forward because life always does. I graduated college, got a job in the city, moved into an apartment with loud neighbors and busy streets and running trails filled with other people. Leela finished high school. She left for her own college. She doesn't run alone anymore. My parents still live in the same house. They still lock their doors early. They still watch slow cars carefully. Sometimes when I visit, I drive past the entrance of the neighborhood and remember being 8 years old, holding my sister's wrist, walking away from a man in a white SUV. I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't. I wonder if everything that came after was random, or if it was the result of one choice made by a paranoid kid who didn't go to a stranger's car. I'll never know. But I do know this. If a stranger in a car ever calls you closer, even in a nice neighborhood, even in daylight, even if they seem harmless, listen to the quiet voice that tells you to walk away. Sometimes that voice is the only thing keeping you alive. I've always loved quiet places. Not the peaceful picnic in the park kind of quiet. I mean real quiet. No traffic, no neighbors, no buzzing power lines. Just wind, distant birds, and your own heartbeat keeping you company. That's how I met Erin. We both worked at the same outdoor gear shop in northern Utah. She was the kind of person who could pitch a tent in the dark, start a fire with damp wood, and still look like she knew exactly what she was doing. I liked that about her. She liked that I didn't talk too much. We started going on weekend trips together. Forest hikes, lake camping, stargazing on ridgelines. Anywhere far from crowds. After a while, normal campsites started to feel too easy, too close to civilization, too many people walking past your tent to get to the bathroom building. So, when Erin found an online forum post about a stretch of public desert land that allowed free dispersed camping, we jumped on it. No reservation, no fee, no marked plots, just coordinates and an old dirt road. It sounded perfect. We packed the truck on a Friday morning. Tent, sleeping bags, cooler, water jugs, Erin's small telescope, my old shotgun that I always brought for coyotes. We told our families where we were going. We saved the GPS location offline. Then we drove out into nothing. The paved road gave way to gravel. The gravel gave way to dirt. Cell service faded. The horizon flattened into endless tan earth and scattered scrub. It felt like driving into another planet. By late afternoon, we reached the spot. A shallow valley surrounded by low hills. A dry creek bed. A few blackened stones from old fire rings. No tire tracks, no trash, no signs of recent visitors. Erin smiled and spun once with her arms out. This is it! This is the place. We set up camp. The air was warm but dry. The sky stretched huge and blue above us. No sound but wind brushing through brittle grass. That first night was exactly what we wanted. We made a small fire, cooked canned food, shared a bottle of cheap wine, talked about everything and nothing. When the stars came out, Erin set up her telescope and showed me Saturn's rings. By midnight, we crawled into the tent. The desert cooled fast. I fell asleep with the sound of wind tugging gently at the fabric. Sometime after 2 a.m., Erin nudged me awake. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. I listened. A sound rolled across the valley. Low, long, not loud but clear in the silence. A drawn-out moan or howl, something in between. It faded, came again, distant. Coyotes, I thought, but coyotes yip and bark. They don't make slow, steady calls like that. Erin asked, "Mountain lion?" "Maybe," I said. "We're fine, they stay away from people." The sound didn't come again. Eventually, we slept.
The next day was warm and lazy. We explored the dry creek bed, found old rusted cans half buried in sand, remnants of someone else's forgotten trip. We laughed about how we'd probably never find this place again without GPS. That night, the sound returned. Same time, same long, dragging call, this time closer. Erin sat up in her sleeping bag, eyes wide. Okay, that is not a coyote. I reached for the shotgun and loaded it quietly, not because I thought I'd need it, because it made us feel less helpless. The sound moved across the valley, slow, circling, then faded into distance again. Neither of us slept well after that. On the third day, we considered packing up early, not because of the sound. We joked about it being some weird desert animal, but both of us felt the same thing and didn't say it out loud. We felt watched. Nothing obvious, no footprints, no movement on the hills, just that sense you get when your instincts whisper before your brain catches up. We decided to stay one more night, just one. We had the time off work, we didn't want to feel foolish. The sun dropped, the sky burned orange, the wind died completely, the desert went still. We ate dinner in silence. By midnight, we were in the tent again. Erin fell asleep first. I stayed awake listening. No howls, no wind, no insects, just silence so complete it felt heavy. Then I heard it. Crunch. Slow. Careful. Footsteps. Not animal, not random. Measured. Human pace. They stopped just outside the tent. Every muscle in my body locked. I didn't breathe. Erin shifted in her sleep beside me. A faint light glowed through the tent wall. A small flickering point. A lighter flame. I watched the shadow move. The flame rose slightly. Someone was standing there, holding fire a few feet from our tent. My mind scrambled for explanations. A lost camper? Someone asking for help? A prank? Then the flame touched the ground. The tent wall suddenly bloomed orange. Heat hit us instantly. Fabric shrank and blackened. Erin screamed. I grabbed the water jug and threw it against the burning side. Steam exploded. I stomped at the flames. Erin dragged sleeping bags and backpacks out of the opposite side. It took less than a minute to put out the fire. But in that minute, everything changed. When the flames died, half the tent was ruined. Our supplies were scattered on the dirt. The night stretched empty around us. No footsteps running away, no vehicle engine, no voice, just the echo of our breathing. I grabbed the flashlight and scanned the valley. Nothing. No figure, no movement, no tracks in the hard-packed dirt. Whatever was there was gone. Erin's voice shook. We're leaving, now. We packed what we could carry, left the burned tent behind, threw bags into the truck bed. Then we realized something worse. In the chaos, neither of us had paid attention to direction. The valley looked different at night. The hills all matched. The dirt road we came in on wasn't obvious in the dark. We were lost in the desert with no shelter, limited water, and a truck somewhere out there in the black. We started walking. I held the flashlight, Erin held my arm. The beam cut a narrow tunnel through darkness. Rocks shifted under our feet. Thorny bushes grabbed at our legs. After 10 minutes, Erin whispered, "Do you hear that?" The sound came again. Not the howl this time. Screams. Far away. Then another from a different direction. Then another, high, thin. Human voices in pain. Erin gripped my arm hard. We walked faster. The screams stopped, then started again, closer. We didn't speak after that. We just moved, faster, breathing hard, flashlight shaking. Finally, headlights appeared over a rise. Our truck. We threw ourselves inside. I turned the key. The engine roared. Gravel sprayed as we sped away. In the rearview mirror, the valley disappeared into darkness. No lights behind us, no chasing vehicle, no sign of anyone. Just the empty desert swallowing whatever had been there with us. Neither of us spoke for an hour. When we finally reached paved road and cell service returned, Aaron called the police, reported attempted arson, gave coordinates, explained everything. They searched the area the next day. No footprints, no accelerant residue, no evidence of another person. Just a burned tent in an empty valley. They told us it was likely a random vandal or drifter. Case closed. But sometimes at night, Aaron still texts me, "Do you ever think about the desert?" And I know exactly what she means, because I still hear those screams in my dreams. And I still wonder who lit that fire, and whether we left before something much worse arrived.
Aaron and I didn't talk much in the days after the desert. We both took time off work. She stayed at her sister's apartment. I stayed home and slept with the lights on like a child, even though I told myself it was just temporary. The police followed up once. A deputy called to say they'd checked the coordinates. They found the burned tent. No other footprints, no tire tracks besides ours, no evidence of anyone else being there. He suggested the fire might have started accidentally, a tipped lantern, a smoldering coal from our fire pit. I didn't argue, but we both knew the truth. The flame had come from outside the tent. Weeks passed. Life slowly restarted. Work schedules, groceries, bills, conversations that didn't mention the desert. Erin tried to act normal, but I could see the strain. She jumped at sudden noises. She kept pepper spray in her hand, walking from her car to the apartment door. She stopped going outdoors alone. I tried to convince myself it had been a one-time incident, a freak event. Wrong place, wrong time. Until the first package arrived. It came to my apartment. No return address, just my name printed neatly on the label. Inside was a small black stone, smooth, desert-worn, warm to the touch despite sitting in a cardboard box on my doorstep. I knew exactly where it came from. I threw it away. 2 days later, another package arrived, this time to Aaron. A photo printed on cheap paper. The burned remains of our tent, taken in daylight, from close enough that whoever snapped it had been standing right beside it. She called me crying. I drove to her place immediately. We sat on her couch, the photo between us on the coffee table like a threat. We went to the police again. This time, they took it more seriously. Fingerprints, postal tracking, surveillance footage from the post office. But the packages had been dropped in a public mailbox. No camera angle showed the sender's face. The postage was paid in cash. Another dead end. After that, Erin moved back in with her parents 2 towns away. She quit the outdoor shop, she stopped hiking, stopped camping, sold her telescope. I didn't blame her. I tried to forget, tried to rebuild normalcy. Months passed. Then one night, I woke to the sound of crunching outside my apartment window. Slow, careful, measured, just like the footsteps outside the tent. I froze in bed, listening. The sound stopped. Silence returned. I didn't sleep again that night. The next morning, I found a footprint in the dirt beside my ground floor window. A single shoe print, size unknown, tread worn smooth. No other prints, just one, like someone had stood there for a long time, watching. I moved out a week later. I took a job in a city, a crowded place, apartment on the 3rd floor, key fob entry, security cameras in every hallway. For a while, it worked. I relaxed. I stopped checking over my shoulder. I started running again. Short jogs in busy parks, people everywhere, noise, life. Then one evening, as I returned from work, I noticed a familiar shape in the parking lot. A white SUV. Large, clean, idling with headlights off. I told myself I was being ridiculous, that white SUVs were everywhere, that I was letting fear control me. I walked past it. As I did, the engine turned off.
I didn't look back. I walked faster, entered my building, took the stairs instead of the elevator. From my window, I watched the parking lot. The SUV stayed for 10 minutes, then drove away. I reported it to building security. They reviewed camera footage. The SUV had no front plate, the rear plate was blurred by glare. The driver's face was never visible. No violation committed, no action taken. After that, I stopped running at night, stopped walking alone after sunset, stopped trusting silence. Erin and I still talk sometimes. She never camped again. I never asked her to. Neither of us ever returned to the desert. The official story is simple. A random vandal set our tent on fire. A coincidence that a suspicious car later appeared in my life. An overactive imagination connecting unrelated events. That's what anyone reasonable would say. But deep down, I know better. Someone stood outside our tent that night. Someone watched us flee. Someone found the burned campsite. Someone mailed proof they'd been there. Someone knew where I lived months later. Someone followed me to a new city. Whether it was one person or many, I'll never know. I only know this. Some places are empty for a reason. Some silence is a warning. And sometimes when you escape something once, it doesn't mean you're free. It just means the story isn't done yet. The first time I realized something was wrong in my neighborhood, I was 10 years old. I didn't understand it that way back then. At that age, you just feel fear and don't yet know how to name it. But now, looking back, I can trace everything to that moment like the first crack in a wall. I grew up in a quiet development outside Spokane, Washington. Picture neat houses, trimmed lawns, 2-car garages, and beyond all that, miles of farmland and wooded back roads. It was safe, or at least that's what everyone told themselves. The kind of place where kids rode bikes until sunset and nobody locked their doors during the day. My little sister Ava was 7 then. One afternoon, we were walking our dog toward the entrance of our street where it met the main road. The sky was bright, cicadas buzzing, nothing unusual at all. Then a voice called out, "Hey, come here." We both turned. A large silver SUV was parked at the curb near the street entrance. The driver's window was down. A man leaned halfway out, one arm resting on the door. He was a white man, maybe in his 30s, with light hair and sunglasses, smiling. Eva took a step forward automatically. She was always trusting, always curious. I grabbed her wrist. "No," I whispered. The man motioned again, a slow curl of his fingers, beckoning. "Come on," he called. "I need help with something." Every story I'd ever heard in school assemblies and safety talks clicked into place. Stranger, car, asking kids to come closer. I shook my head firmly and pulled Ava backward. We turned and walked quickly toward home. I glanced over my shoulder. The man's smile had vanished. He sat back inside the SUV, shifted into gear, and pulled away. But he didn't just drive off normally. He turned the vehicle around and followed slowly behind us for a few seconds before turning onto the main road and disappearing. I told my mom that evening. She frowned, then waved a hand dismissively. Probably lost, wanted directions. I didn't argue, but that night I slept with my bedroom door locked. A year later, on Halloween, something else happened. I didn't see it myself, but the neighborhood exploded with rumors the next morning. A black sedan had been cruising behind groups of trick-or-treaters. When one parent approached to ask what they were doing, the car sped forward, nearly hitting them before racing away. No license plate. Police came. Parents warned their kids. Porch lights stayed on all night for the rest of October. By the time I reached high school, those early incidents had faded into half-remembered childhood fears. Until I started running. I joined cross country my sophomore year. I wasn't the fastest, but I loved it. The solitude, the steady rhythm, the way the world shrank to breath and footsteps. When quarantine hit and school sports shut down, running became my escape. Every afternoon, I jogged the country roads around our neighborhood. Long stretches of empty pavement, fields of tall grass swaying in the wind. A sky so big it made you feel small in the best way. For the first few weeks, it was peaceful. Then I noticed the SUV. It was white this time, large, boxy, tinted windows. The first day, I saw it parked in a driveway along my route. I barely registered it. The second day, I noticed it pull out onto the road just as I passed. The third day, it was behind me, not speeding by, not keeping normal distance, just rolling slowly, matching my jogging pace. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was being dramatic. But by day 5, I knew better. Every afternoon, that same SUV appeared somewhere along my run, sometimes ahead, sometimes behind, always lingering, always just far enough to pretend it was coincidence. I didn't tell my parents. I was afraid they'd ban me from running, and I didn't want to give up the only thing keeping me sane. Instead, I adjusted my routes, changed times, took side streets. One afternoon, I turned onto a quiet cul-de-sac that looped back toward my house. As I ran, I noticed a black sedan parked at the very end of the circle. At first, it seemed normal, a neighbor's car maybe. Then I saw movement, a shadow crouching low beside the sedan, not standing, not walking, crouching, using the car as cover, watching. Every instinct in my body screamed at once. I turned and ran back the way I came. At the entrance of the cul-de-sac, the SUV waited, parked sideways across the road, partially blocking the exit, engine running. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out and started walking towards me. Not rushing, not yelling, just moving with certainty, like he knew I had nowhere to go. Panic took over. I sprinted straight at him, then veered sharply past the SUV's front bumper. He lunged, missed. I kept running, legs pumping, my heart exploding in my chest. I never saw the SUV again after that day, but I stopped running alone. I started training with my friend Leo instead. He was faster than me, stronger, and always up for late-night workouts. He lived 3 streets away, and we'd meet late at night to run loops through the neighborhood. For a while, it felt safe again. Then we decided to change our route. Behind our development was an old dirt service road that led into farmland and tree lines. No streetlights, no houses, just darkness and the sound of crickets. We ran it one night just to test ourselves. It felt eerie but manageable with 2 of us. The next night, we did it again. Halfway down the dirt road, I saw something move at the edge of my vision. A shadow slipping behind a tree. I told Leo. He laughed and said I watched too many horror movies. We turned around to head back. That's when we heard the laughter. Low, ragged, wrong. It came from behind us in the darkness. Then a figure stepped into the faint moonlight. A man, thin, dirty hoodie, torn pants, shoes caked in mud, standing perfectly still, facing us. He started laughing again, loud, broken, like something inside him was cracking. Leo called out, trying to sound tough. "Hey man, you all right?" The laughter stopped. The figure tilted his head slowly, studying us. Then he took 1 step forward, then another. We didn't wait for a third. We ran, not jogging, not sprinting, running like animals escaping a predator. The laughter followed us down the dirt road, bouncing through the trees, closer than it should have been. By the time we hit pavement, my lungs were on fire. Leo was gasping beside me. We didn't speak until we reached my house and locked every door behind us. We never ran at night again. I told myself it was just a disturbed homeless man, or a prank, or something explainable. But sometimes, late at night, when the neighborhood is quiet and the wind moves through the fields, I think back to the SUV, the crouching figure by the black sedan, the man on the dirt road laughing in the dark. And I wonder if it was ever separate events at all. Or if something had been watching this neighborhood for a very long time, and I just happened to grow up inside its path. After the night on the dirt road, Leo and I made an unspoken agreement. No more running after dark. No more shortcuts through empty stretches. No more pretending we were invincible just because we were young. For a while, life settled again. School reopened, routines returned. The strange incidents became stories we told only when we wanted to scare each other a little. the kind of memories that fade at the edges with time. But some things don't fade, they wait. It started with Ava. She was 14 by then, old enough to walk to her friend's house 2 streets over. One afternoon, she came home unusually quiet. She sat at the kitchen table and stared at her phone without speaking. I knew something was wrong immediately. "What happened?" I asked. She hesitated. "There was a car." My stomach tightened. "A black one," she continued. "It followed me for a bit when I was walking home. I sped up. It sped up too. Then it turned away before our street." I felt cold from the inside out. I told my parents. This time, they didn't dismiss it. My dad drove through the neighborhood that evening looking for unfamiliar cars. My mom made Ava promise never to walk alone again. We considered calling the police, but we had no plate number, no description beyond a black car, no crime committed, nothing actionable. So we did what most families do when fear has no clear shape. We adopted. We moved in pairs. We kept lights on. We checked windows. We locked doors. Months passed. No more sightings, no more laughter in the woods, no SUVs, no black sedans. Until the day I graduated high school. That night, a group of us gathered at Leo's house. We celebrated in his backyard, music playing low, parents inside, laughter drifting into the warm summer air. Around midnight, Leo suggested we walk to the small hill behind the neighborhood to watch the stars. Old habit, old comfort. There were 5 of us, enough to feel safe, or so we thought. The dirt service road was darker than I remembered. No moon, just starlight and the dim glow from distant houses. Halfway up the path, one of the girls stopped. "Do you hear that?" she asked. We went quiet. Footsteps. Not ours. Behind us. Slow. Heavy. Crushing gravel. We turned. A figure stood in the dark. Barely visible. Just a silhouette against the faint horizon. Someone whispered, "Hello?" No response. The footsteps started again. Closer. Then another sound. A low chuckle. My blood froze. It was the same laugh from years before, the same broken, uneven sound, like someone enjoying a private joke. Leo grabbed my arm. "Run," he whispered. We didn't hesitate. We sprinted back down the road, shoes slipping, breaths ragged. No one spoke, no one screamed, just the pounding of feet and the echo of laughter behind us. When we burst into Leo's backyard, parents rushed out, asking what happened. We told them everything, all of it. The old sightings, the cars, the man in the road. This time, police came. They searched the hill, the road, the tree line, flashlights cutting through darkness, dogs sniffing the ground. They found nothing. No footprints, no discarded items, no sign of anyone being there. One officer quietly suggested it might have been an animal or imagination fueled by darkness. None of us argued. We knew what we heard. After that, my parents decided we were moving. No debate, no waiting. Within 3 months, we were in a different town. New school, new house, new streets. No farmland stretching into darkness, no dirt roads behind the backyard. Life reset again. I went to college. Eva thrived in her new school. My parents relaxed. The old neighborhood became a distant chapter, something we didn't talk about anymore. Until last winter. I came home for the holidays. One night, unable to sleep, I sat on the couch scrolling through neighborhood groups online. Out of curiosity, I searched for my old street name. A post caught my eye. A woman warning parents about a suspicious vehicle seen following children near the entrance of the development. A silver SUV. My heart pounded as I read the comments. Someone mentioned a black sedan seen idling late at night near the same cul-de-sac where I had once seen a crouching figure. Another comment talked about strange noises on the dirt service road. Laughing, footsteps, a presence in the dark. I sat there for a long time, staring at the screen. Different families, different years, same patterns. The next morning, I told Ava. She went pale but nodded slowly. She had never forgotten either. We told our parents. My mom cried quietly. My dad sat in silence, jaw clenched. We didn't call the police. What would we say? That a neighborhood hundreds of miles away still had the same stories we once lived? There was no proof, no suspect, no single incident strong enough to force action. Just fear, passed from family to family, year after year. I don't know who the man on the dirt road was, or who drove the SUV, or who crouched behind the sedan. I don't know if they were connected, or if that place simply attracts the wrong kind of people, or if something darker, harder to name, settled there long ago. All I know is this. Some neighborhoods look perfect on the surface, safe, quiet, ordinary. But underneath, there are stories no one writes in real estate listings. Stories that children carry into adulthood. Stories that shape how you walk at night, how you check your windows, how you teach your own kids to never trust a stranger in a car. We escaped that neighborhood, but others still live there. And sometimes, late at night, I wonder who is walking those dirt roads now, who is hearing laughter in the dark, who is realizing for the first time that something is very wrong in a place that looks completely normal.